today's video, I'm gonna be sharing all about my own postpartum weight loss journey, the ups and downs, the honest truth from start to finish, and I can't wait to get into it. Maybe you're similar to me and you didn't bounce back, not even close, after you had a baby or your babies. And I know what that feels like. My postpartum weight loss journey was a lot of work and a lot harder than I ever thought it would be. So there was really 5 things that helped me the most on my postpartum weight loss journey. So let's take it back just a little bit. I gained 53 pounds in my pregnancy, not ideal. I'm gonna spare you the long story. I have one video that talks a little bit about my pregnancy, but I was incredibly ill. I didn't have a very balanced diet just because I couldn't keep much down. And it was just really the perfect storm. A global pandemic hit in the middle of my pregnancy, and it was just not the ideal situation. So it is what it is. I gained 53 pounds. At my 6-week postpartum checkup, I was down 23 pounds. So that meant I still had 30 to go, and that was a lot. I knew that it was gonna be a lot of work, especially now that my time was more limited. I had this baby that I was taking care of full time, and then this massive life change and transition that I was trying to adapt to. So I knew it was gonna be a long road. I don't think I ever thought it was going to take me as long as it did. Let's talk about the first thing that I honestly feel like helped me a lot in my postpartum journey, and that's body neutrality. There were so many times in my pregnancy journey, in my postpartum journey especially, that I really chose to strive for body neutrality. I don't think anyone can possibly prepare you for what it is like to see your body, feel your body after you've had a baby. Everything is just different and you don't recognize yourself. And while it's such a beautiful thing and you can appreciate it for all that it did, it's also incredibly hard. And I think that's not always talked about. And I had a lot of challenging days where I felt like I was never gonna get back to the old me. And that didn't mean that I needed to weigh the same or look the exact same, but I wanted to feel strong. I wanted to have that old part of me that just felt like I could go and do anything that I wanted to and not have pain and not have this extra weight that I was carrying that was honestly just making everything in my life more difficult. Things like sitting up in bed when I was breastfeeding my daughter, things like carrying her up the stairs. So I think that it's really important when we are going through all these changes with our bodies to find this place of neutrality. Because for me, self-love, it felt too far-fetched at that particular moment. I loved my body for what it did, and yet it still felt like it wasn't resonating to say that I was so in love with my body, when honestly I was confused about what was happening to my body and in my body. So for me, that just was a really good neutral place, and I started something called the 20-second rule. And that was, I would allow myself 20 seconds to see myself in the mirror and feel the feelings that I needed to feel, and then I would move on. And the beautiful part about taking care of a newborn is you don't really have a lot of time to focus on that kind of stuff, but I did allow myself a little bit of time, and then I just moved on. And I still have those days, even though I'm at my goal, I still have those days where I give myself 20 seconds. I think it's this ever-evolving journey, and I would just encourage you, as you are losing the weight and you've got loose skin, or maybe you don't, I do, to just remember that that neutrality is there, and then I think it can be a really supportive piece for you until you feel like you're ready to love your body again. The second biggest thing in my own weight loss journey was choosing balanced meals. And this happened in such a slow progression. When my daughter was first born, we had meals delivered for like the first 2 months because I'm the main cook of the family, and I knew I just wasn't gonna be up for the challenge. So I had meals delivered for us so that we were fed and we didn't have to think about food. then as time went on, about month 3 and 4, as we started to get into a good groove, then I felt like I was able to kind of get back to that 80-20 of like eating mostly healthy, nutrient-dense foods, but then also, you know, doing our fair share of takeout because, again, we're still new parents and we're doing the best that we can. So, you know, when I noticed that I was really starting to lose weight was when I was choosing those balanced meals. I was trying to have a protein and a veggie and a carb and a healthy fat at each meal, and I just kept it super simple. And I really worked on the plate method, and that's something I've, you know, used for all of my clients. And it's really simple because, you know, you always have a plate and you just put a little bit of everything on it, and that kept me full and fueled, and I felt like that was really, really helpful in my postpartum weight loss journey. Something that I want to add is that I did not lose weight with breastfeeding. In fact, I think breastfeeding did me 0 favors. And I know that so many people told me before I had my daughter, oh, don't worry, you're gonna lose all the weight. It's just gonna fall right off because you're breastfeeding. That could not have been further from the truth for me. And that actually caused a lot of like confusion and frustration. I felt like, well, what is wrong with me that the weight is just not falling off? If anything, it felt like it was staying on. I had to work for every single pound that came off of my body. And that was just my own personal journey. So maybe yours will be different. But I really had to just accept that it could mean that I don't lose all of the weight until after I weaned my daughter. And I had kind of come to the conclusion that that was okay. 1 year of my life, you know, my goal was to try for a year, and I figured, you know what, it's only a year, and if it doesn't happen until then, it is what it is. So I just wanted to throw this out there because for me, it was not helpful, and so I had to really rely on my healthy habits with my food and my exercise to help me lose any of the weight before I weaned my daughter. Okay, so as that slow progression went on, once we got to about 6 months postpartum, I felt like we were eating pretty normal to our usual, really healthy, nutrient-dense foods, but we were still eating out. We were still having mod pizza. We were still having Chipotle. You know, we were still enjoying ourselves. I just noticed that with breastfeeding, you know, the older my daughter got, the less snacking I needed to do, the less, I needed a little bit less food as time went on. You know, in the beginning, I was so ravenous that I literally would just eat anything. And I relied on a lot of convenience foods. And I think that's totally okay, especially, you know, early on. It just wasn't my number one priority to make sure that I was eating, you know, everything from the ground and everything super nutritious. My goal was just to eat healthy most of the time. So I would say around the 9-month mark is when I pretty much stopped snacking. I just felt like I didn't really need it unless I was extra hungry on a certain day from exercise or having a really active day. I didn't feel like I really needed the snacks as much. So I'm someone, I much prefer to just have like larger meals, feel really satisfied, and then wait till the next meal to eat. So I would say at about that 9-month mark, especially as I was down to like 3 feedings for my daughter a day, I just wasn't feeling near the hunger that I was initially with the breastfeeding. Okay, the third and super crucial thing, I honestly think this is probably the number one thing that helped me lose the weight, and that's walking. Honestly, there's so many studies that have shown that people who have a consistent routine with walking and getting steps throughout the day, not only do they lose more weight, but they're able to maintain it that much easier. Luckily, walking has always been like really ingrained in me. We have a dog, so I've always walked him 3 to 4 miles a day, and I did my best to keep up that same routine even with having a baby. So I would walk him in the morning, I would walk him at night. I would just try to make it work and just try to stay as active as possible. And this is where I started, you know, before I was cleared to exercise, I just started with gentle walking. And then once I was cleared, my schedule looked a little like this. I would try to get at least 2 miles in every single day. And then I would lift weights for 20 to 30 minutes 3 times a week. That's it. That's all I did for the first 3.5, 4 months. And that felt really doable for me. And it also felt good on my body because I was so incredibly sore just because I had taken time off, that the 3 times a week spread out so that my body could have time to adjust and recover felt really, really good for me. So the strength training was crucial and the walking. And honestly, that's it. I have worked out at home my entire pregnancy, especially because of COVID, and my entire postpartum journey. I lost all the weight without stepping foot in a gym. So I just want to encourage you that if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, in order to lose the weight, I have to go to a gym, you don't. You just need a small little area in your house, or you just need to go and walk. And that's what I love about it, is it's so accessible to everybody that often we underestimate the power that it has to really deliver some of the best results we could possibly ask for. Once I was 6 months postpartum, this is when another big shift happened for me. So I should say that this was the first time I had weighed myself at 6 months postpartum since my 6-week checkup. No real reason. I just honestly, well, first of all, we didn't really own a scale. And second of all, it just wasn't that important to me. I could feel that I was making progress, but I also knew that it was super slow, that I was kind of, not super attached to weighing myself. So once I did at 6 months postpartum, I still had 17 pounds to go. And I was actually pretty happy with that. It still felt like a really high mountain to climb, but I at least knew the data and I knew what I needed to do. So at that point, my husband encouraged me to go start playing pickleball, which is a whole story in itself, but I actually really fell in love with it. So that's the only time that I left the house for exercise besides walking. And I noticed a huge difference once I started playing pickleball. And I really think it's because I fell in love with what I was doing, and I wasn't even thinking about it being exercise. It was so social. I was meeting so many people. I was moving my body. I was getting fresh air. It was one of the healthiest things I could have done for myself. Having been a trainer and being used to being around so many people all the time, I just missed that camaraderie. So this is a big kind of turning point in my postpartum journey. I noticed that within the first 2 to 3 months of playing pickleball, I hadn't weighed myself again, but I could tell that I had lost at least 10 pounds, if not more. So many of my old clothes were starting to fit, and I was just feeling so good. I could tell I was making a ton of progress. And that's the other thing is, I didn't need to use the scale because I could tell by the way my clothes were fitting. I could tell by the way that I was looking that I was making great progress. So yes, I used the scale pretty intermittently along the way, but I could just feel that I was doing a great job, and I relied on that intuitive feeling. And that really leads me to my fifth and final thing that I feel like helped me lose the weight postpartum, and that is a community. For me, it felt like a pretty lonely journey just at home in my basement, but I did it. I showed up on more days than I want to admit when I didn't want to do anything. And that's something I want to add is I wasn't always motivated. In fact, most of the days I wasn't motivated, especially when everything hurt, when I couldn't recognize my body, when it felt like I was never going to get there, but I showed up anyways. I did the work, I didn't make excuses for myself, and then I just moved on with my day. And that's the thing is, it's not any big profound decision that I made. It's all those little decisions I made every single day for 365 days that snowballed into this massive result. And I think we often underestimate what those small, healthy habits can do for us long term. So that community for me, it really just opened my eyes to how much I miss being around people. And, I continued to play a ton of pickleball this summer. And again, I could just feel that I was getting incredible results because I was training hard, but I was also having such a good time. And I maintained my 3 days of strength training every week. It was usually for about 45 minutes, and that felt really good for me. And I've gotten amazing results doing that. So what I would encourage you to do in your own weight loss journey is just find things that you really enjoy. If you are thinking that you need to run to lose weight and you don't enjoy it, you don't. There's so many other things that you can do. So just make sure that you try to give yourself that time to find out what it is that you like to do, because that's the thing that you're gonna stick with. So here I am, I'm actually 13 months postpartum making this video, but I weighed myself at the 12-month mark and I was down 53 pounds. I was back to my pre-pregnancy weight, but I also want to be really transparent in saying that, okay, yes, I weigh the same that I did before I had my daughter, but my body is still very different. Like the way that the weight is distributed is really different. And I'm okay with that. I'm super happy with where I am. And I know that I have all the time in the world to, keep making progress, to keep building muscle and strength and endurance. But I also just want to add, because I think sometimes it's easy to hear, oh, well, she's at the weight that she was pre-pregnancy. I am, but my body and the way things fit are definitely different. And so I just want to encourage you to know that, it takes a lot of time to build strength and build muscle. And that's why I'm actually really proud that my journey was long. I wasn't willing to do any sort of crash diet, no dieting at all. I wanted to do something that was going to be easy to maintain, something that allowed me to still enjoy, my time with my husband, my time with my family, enjoy some treats here and there, and just be able to live my life and have the weight loss be a really natural byproduct of all the healthy habits that I was, stacking on top of each other. So I hope from this video you take away that there was no magic pill. There was no magical thing that I did. The magical thing was that I kept showing up for myself for an entire year. I kept showing up for myself amidst this massive transition, and I made time even though there wasn't. When my daughter napped for 20 minutes, I tried to move my body for 20 minutes. But I also chose to take naps on days when that felt like it was what I needed more. I really listened to my body, and I knew that it was okay if it took me a year or more time to lose the weight. And I also was completely okay if I never got back to where I was pre-pregnancy. I was confident that I would, because I knew that I'm a very active person and that it was going to happen for me. But 53 pounds is a lot. That's like almost half my body weight, a little bit more than that. And so I just knew that it was going to take a good chunk of time. So I just want to encourage you. I know how lonely and hard this journey can feel. I know how, sometimes we can just be confused by our bodies and not sure where to turn or what to do next. I want to remind you to trust yourself, and that if you're not sure what to do, just start with walking. Start with something super simple. Start with just making some, more nutritious choices. And I promise you that as you, make those things more of a daily part of your lifestyle, they will 100% translate into great results for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to support you. If you're just not sure what to do next, you want someone to support you on your postpartum weight loss journey, I would love to help you. You can book a call below in the description box if that's something that resonates with you. But I just hope that you took something helpful from this video and know that you're not alone and you're doing an amazing job. And if there's anything I can do, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any future videos, as I post new videos every Sunday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.